Last week I was invited to speak at a professional meeting, and in the professional meeting, one of the things they wanted to talk about was one of my favorite topics, the sustainability of the land surveying profession. Frankly, as we sit today, I don't see us being sustainable, but not all is lost. What we need to do as a profession is we need to pivot. Last talk I gave, we talked about the no credential, no work. We need to increase the number of land surveyors to increase our voice. And we can do that with the no credential, no work program with some strong mentorship. And when I say mentorship, I don't mean the company buys lunch and you guys talk about practices for an hour. I'm talking about sitting down for hours on end and increasing the competency of what we do. But being very competent doesn't necessarily mean that there's work. Now, we see some green shoots out there in that we have an infrastructure bill coming forward, and it's going to be a lot of money, and there's going to be a lot of work in public works. However, as we've noticed, the land surveying is, the contractors are self-performing a lot of the work, and that's going to continue, and that's actually going to increase. And the reason is we just can't fill the voids. I had a gentleman call our office this last week looking to have a survey done, and he said he's been trying to get a surveyor for over 3 months. Well, the market's going to work around that, and the legislation's going to work around that. And we're going to see Esri and some of these GIS folks raise up again as they did in the late 90s and try to create alternative licenses or to water down or deregulate our profession. Again, not all is lost. I see some great avenues for us. I spent this last week, a couple days this last week in Richmond, Missouri, getting training and certified in underground utility location. I think that's a market that is made for us. I think it's a market that ASCE recognized in 2002, 3, 4, the need for regulation, because as it is now, the regulation is, I'll say, spotty as compared to the regulation of a licensed land surveyor. So I think there's a great opportunity there. If you look at the California Business Professions Code, Section 8726A, and you locates, relocates, and it goes into civil fixed works, well, that is underground utility location. You also have the newly published ASCE standards 3821, and it's standard 38 2021 publication. And it's very distinct in there, the call for land surveying. And in California, regulations being what they are, we have a role in this community, or in this practice. And why do we need that? Well, I'll give you an example, and I've used this example numerous times. If you've ever seen me speak, I've talked about this numerous times. And here's what you have. In 1990, one of the bigger companies here in Orange County was running 40 crews. And of those 40 crews, they were all 3-person crews, so they had 120 people. Technically, they had 43 crews, but they had 120 field people. And the recession in 1991 came in, and when they built back between 96 and 2006, they were running 25 crews, and all of those crews were 2-person crews. So they went from 120 to 50 over the course of, let's just say 10 years. So they cut more than half. Now, I would say that they're running close to their peak now. They've maintained the model of running 2-person crews, which can't be said for everybody. And that 2-person, they run about 12 crews. So they have 24 people. So if I had started at that company in 1990, and over the course of 30 years, I'm 50 years old. If I started when I was 20 years old, I've seen that company go from 120 field people down to, in that particular office, down to about 25. And the next recession, whenever that may be, we can expect those numbers to go again. And the reason is automation, technology, and all the things we know about, contractors self-performing, and so on and so forth. And this is going to continue. Mobile LiDAR and these kind of things, none of them are a death knell. However, what we need to do is we need to focus on the professional level work, certifications of accuracy, certifications of location, certifications of geodetic coordinates. These are all things that are already in the legislation for the land surveyor to do. And we need to claim the role. But if we make money historically off of labor, meaning I have 10 crews so I can support 5 managers, so I can support a principal. That model's dead. It's not dead yet, but if you're building on it, if you're over 55, go ahead and ride it down to the bottom. But if you're 40 years old, next stop for you is Walmart greeter if this whole survey thing goes away. And that's not good for anybody, and I certainly don't wish that upon anybody. And so we need to pivot. And what does pivot mean? It means make ourselves useful, provide services, education, experience that other people don't have. So one of the ways that I'm looking as a business is underground utility location. Why? We have Senate Bill 865 here, and Senate Bill 865 is a underground utility location legislation. And when you read it, it says that the act requires an operator to maintain certain records on subsurface installations. The bill will require that commencing on January 1st, 2023, all new subsurface installations, it accepts out something under 3 inches inside of refineries, says that will be mapped using a geographic information system and maintained as permanent records of the operator. So what they're saying is if you're building facilities, those facilities need to be as-built and they need to be put into a GIS system. If you read further into the legislation, there's a required accuracy in there of 24 inches. And we know as surveyors, you can't turn on an L1 receiver and get 24-inch accuracy. You can't even turn on a receiver with dual frequency and get RTN coordinates and be within 24 inches if you're in the wrong epoch. If you're in a 9135 epoch, which many GIS systems are, or if you're in a 2017.5 epoch, you're outside of 24 inches. Same thing can be true with the vertical datums, and arguably the vertical is more important. If you're on a 29 datum, or if you're on an 88 datum, you have about 2.5 feet there. Now, I think that is clearly something where a land surveyor has a role and can help them. Now, do I see land surveyors having 20 field locators? Probably not. Do I see a land surveyor supervising the work, creating the GIS, maybe maintaining the databases? Yes. The idea that we have field people that have no skills in the office, that's a dated concept also. You're going to need crossover training, and the crossover training means that there can't be field-only people. And how does that fit in? Well, this information that we collect, you cannot simply be a button pusher, go out and put some coordinates on something, because I would argue that a lot of field people may not know the difference between epochs and datums and what they're actually getting. You need a professional involved, but I don't think the market will support labor as we traditionally know it. The market's not going to have 20 field locators and 1 land surveyor. I think it's going to be a land surveyor with somebody that has dexterity to work in the field, in the office. Because when I talk to some of these engineering companies, some of the smaller engineering companies where the surveyors aren't actually part of the engineering business model, they're struggling to keep these people busy 40 hours a week. That's not going to change. If you're a big company where you're doing residential development, and the surveyors are there as a cog within this development machine for an engineering company, that model works, that model will continue to work. But if you're a surveyor inside of an engineering company and you're out there expected to get your own work and develop that work, that's not going to happen, because land surveyors, well, back it up. Let's talk about this. Big companies, reputable companies, smart companies like Fluor, Black & Veatch, AECOM. These companies are very sophisticated. They have good management. And guess what they don't have? Land surveyors. And why? Because land surveyors don't fit that model anymore. And so pivoting back, the land surveyors are going to have a way of making money outside of the engineering model and serving the engineering community. Well, underground utilities is one way to do that. I'm going to do a series on building a sustainable model. And frankly, it hasn't been proven. I'm just bantering about some ideas to see what we can do and see what sticks. Because as we're heading the direction we're heading, facing certain deregulation, we have the capacity to, again, pivot and save ourselves and actually expand the profession. But we have to move away from a labor model. We have to be in a professional model. That means licensure, not technicians, certainly not field-only people. There's just no future in it. And these are people that we know and care about. We need to invest in them and invest in training them. And that's one of the things I would encourage you to do is read Senate Bill 865. Educate yourself on underground utility location, GIS, and the one vision I have of this is what we're going to do as surveyors is we're going to go out and we're going to set horizontal and vertical control along a proposed trench line. And we will require the contractor in many instances or the underground utility locator in other instances that are not licensed. And they're going to collect our 3 vertical control points in a 1,000-foot run. They're going to collect raw data. Then they're going to collect the pipe. Then before they bury that pipe, we're going to go out and we're going to shoot a couple hundred feet on each end. We're going to verify the control. We'll get their raw data and we'll post-process that data into whatever epic and into whatever datum we have, presuming they're using RTN. That's one vision I have because there's not going to be enough work in the location to keep everybody working all the time. I mean, the people that do the pipe location, they also run a shovel and they also are flag people. They do these kind of things and frankly, the surveyors aren't going to be doing that and it doesn't make sense and our availability isn't going to be there. They can't leave these trenches open over certain periods of time. It's just not going to work out as a convenience and they're not going to pay us to stand there for 8 hours to get an hour of collection. So I don't know exactly how it's going to work out, but I think we have a market there. And I think that we're going to get a second bite at the GIS apple. We're certainly not going to upset Esri and what they have going on over there or their technicians. However, we can create our files and we can import them and we can probably maintain the databases, and some of the more sophisticated firms that made the investment in GIS are going to bring this in. But most of the GIS departments aren't actually related to the survey department. Anyway, that is what I want to talk about today is underground utility location and pivoting on our model. I'm going to have a number of additional modules to this because it's very important to the sustainability of land surveying. Now, as I always say, it's time to put away our clown shoes, pack away the mini bikes, and focus on the standard of care in California. Thank you and have a nice day.